I want to tell a story today about beating the odds. I suppose it's a type of rebellion, the kind of rebellion you have when someone says, it can't be done, the battle cannot be won, and you decide to choose a different outcome. What may surprise you is that it isn't a story about Mach 20 hypersonic airplanes or making vaccines in tobacco plants, building a modular phone, or discovering a new art form. It isn't a story about technology at all. It is the story of my most important battle and what it taught me. When I was 9 years old, I was diagnosed with catastrophic ovarian cancer. Embryonal cell carcinoma was the fancy scientific name for the tumor that was trying to eat me. It was 1972, June 27th, and the doctors told my parents I wouldn't see Christmas. I underwent 3 major surgeries, 2.5 years of chemo. All my hair fell out. I was small, but I understood. It was game on. I fought in the hospital. Once it took 9 nurses and doctors to hold me to the table to put an IV in me, because the IV was the symbol of the beginning of chemo. My closest confidant at the time was a big pink stuffed dog named Fuzzy. And he sat at the foot of my bed in the hospital and out. He hated the doctors too. It was an irrational hate, but it's hard to like people who are torturing you, even if they're trying to save your life. I still have Fuzzy. He's been through more than a few laundry cycles now, and his eyes are in the wrong place because we had to glue them on so many times. I fought going to the hospital, and my sisters fought alongside me. Once, they stood as brave sister sentinels, one to my left and one to my right, as they proudly announced to my parents, "You're not taking her there anymore." They were 7 and 8 at the time, and I learned that courage has no minimum age. And I remember strange details, like feeling that I was overdressed for tumor board. I was wearing a blue and green dress made of the kind of fabric that floats if you twirl around, but I wasn't twirling very much by then. And I had a dainty little necklace that had been given to me by my grandparents. The pendant was a flower, and in the center of the flower was a little diamond. It was on such a fine chain that I remember thinking it might break if I touched it, so I tried not to touch it. And I remember the taste of metal. Everything tastes metallic when you're dosed up on chemo. Nothing tastes good. Ginger ale and applesauce were about all I could manage most days. The only thing that tasted good was peanut butter. And my parents used to sit a jar of peanut butter in the windowsill and let the sun shine on it so that it would melt, and I could eat it like soup with a spoon. Peanut butter soup. My dad threatened to punch an intern once who pushed chemo through my veins too fast and made me cry because it burned like fire. And I heard the scuffle at the nurse's station, and I remember feeling proud that the doctors weren't the boss of my dad. My dad would stand up for me. My mother said I was a little monster in the hospital. I was impolite. I refused to talk. She said I pretended to be someone else so I didn't have to be nice. And then the moment we left the hospital, I would return to the child she knew. I was just fighting in every direction. Big rebellions, small rebellions, everything. It was a coping strategy, and I think key to surviving. It was the early days of chemo, so they gave me 5 different drugs. There were no anti-nausea meds. Essentially, the doctors poisoned me to the brink of death with a single hope, that they would kill the cancer before they killed me. It sucked. I mean, really, it sucked. Now, I don't usually tell this story. Most people think it's because it's mostly a story I'd like to forget. But actually, the opposite is true. Mostly, I try to remember, because that time taught me some important things. 3 things in particular. First, the doctor said I had a 10% shot at survival. And I learned the odds are irrelevant. If it's possible and it matters, you take the shot and you never give up. Sometimes this requires believing in seemingly impossible things, things that others won't believe in, things that they don't believe in. And second, if the odds don't matter, every moment does. Live life big. Don't be afraid of failure, because no one is promised tomorrow. It brings a sense of urgency to every day. And third, if you want to make a difference in someone's life, showing up is key. Every night when I was in the hospital, my father was there when I closed my eyes, and my mother was there when I opened them. And it made such a difference to me. They didn't always know what to say, they didn't always know what to do, but they were there. They showed up, even when it was hard. Now, I recognize my story is not so unique. Sure, it's unique to me, but we all have a story, something we had to fight through, something that required we marshal more will than we thought we were capable of, something we had to work out, something hard, our own rebellion. I think that rebellion is just shorthand for refusing to accept the odds, for making moments matter, and for showing up. It's true that sometimes rebellion is fun. More often, the important rebellion, the one born of give-a-shitness, is hard work. In that kind of rebellion, in the hard work of it, we reveal what we love. Work is how we make love visible. It's always been that way. Wow, thank you. This is actually totally terrifying for me. You should know that my work now is about making things, seemingly impossible things, things that others say cannot be built. And it's a fight that I recognize. It often feels hard, very hard. But the hard is what makes it great. And I love it. Perhaps your hard work is in a relationship or in parenting. Perhaps it is in teaching or music or art or science. Perhaps it is the work of creating new things or of protecting old things, of surfing or suffrage, the work of making a new discovery, of finding a new land, of fighting an illness or finding a cure. Or perhaps you understand what my parents must have felt when you do the work of making it to the bedside of a sick child every day. Whatever it is, these are visible, tangible illustrations of love. If you want to find your greatest love, look inside the hardest thing you do. That's where it will be. Thank you.